had this feeling in my gut that, there's just so much meat left on the bone. I just felt like we have something special. If we can keep Blackman, and that was the deal. I was worried about Blackman leaving. But if we can keep Blackman, I knew Josh Cooper and all these other receivers. The offensive line was really good. Defensive pieces we had, I was like, this has the potential to be a special season in 2011.
So, Brandon, let's start out talking about how you got to Oklahoma State. You were a pretty darn good high school quarterback, but most people knew you were going to take the baseball route, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I was telling the story to one of the coaches the other day. I didn't even really play football. I mean, a lot of people don't really know that. I played flag football when I was 10. I played in 7th grade. I don't know that I ever was on the field for an actual snap. I was so small. And I just never really, I'd never played football. I didn't really like it. I was pretty soft. I didn't want to get hit. And so baseball was always my path. I mean, I was always a guy that, threw hard, loved baseball, basically year round. I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And then basketball was just kind of to have fun, stay in shape. But it was, my goal was when I was a young kid, I wanted to pitch in the big leagues. And, I'm not sure I was that good that young, but I developed a little bit faster, especially, as I was getting into high school and stuff like that. But yeah, football didn't even really come along until my junior year of high school.
So did you have any offers for football at all?
No, so I actually signed to play baseball here at Oklahoma State Josh was actually recruiting me. His dad was head coach, and so I signed to play baseball here during football season, that early signing period. I think it was in November back then. So no, I really didn't even explore it, to be honest with you. I mean, Coach Gundy recruited my tight end. He was around, I tell people, I had aspirations of playing football and then hoping to walk on and to play baseball and then hopefully to walk on and play football. But no, I mean, I didn't even explore it. It was all baseball for me, and I was a cocky 18-year-old, and I thought I was either going to go to Oklahoma State, a school I love, or I'm going to go, get drafted and pursue that dream. So it all worked out. Obviously a crazy path, but it was fun.
So you get drafted high enough, second round, first player taken by the Yankees in that draft, and you're taken by the Yankees. Right. So I know you go to New York City. I know you said you had a news conference for that, and that starts your baseball path.
Yeah, and it's funny, I grew up kind of a Yankees fan. I liked Clemens, I liked Jeter, I liked all those guys. And my brother, ironically, was a Red Sox fan, and he ended up getting drafted by the Red Sox 4 or 5 years later. But I was on my senior trip. We were down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and I got drafted. Back then, there was nothing on TV, obviously, so it was all you followed online. And so I had a calling card my parents gave me, and I'm sure I had some cocktails on the beach while I was waiting to call my parents. And I knew that it was about time for the draft to start. And anyway, my parents been trying to get a hold of me for about an hour, and I called them, and my mom couldn't even spit it out. She was crying, and everybody's excited, and had a bunch of family over at my house. But I was in Mexico with my buddies and a bunch of people for the senior trip, and so I got drafted by the Yankees. And then really the minute I got home, Martin Batchko was the scout, and he came in, and the only hang up was school. Well, ironically, it took a little bit longer for me to sign because we went back and forth on how much I was going to get, how much the Yankees were going to pay toward my scholarship if I were to decide to go back to school, and that was my parents, actually. That was their ideal. They were like, Brandon, this thing, what if it doesn't work out? You need a backup plan. And I was like, yeah, right, I'm going to, I didn't say it, but I was thinking one of these days I'll be pitching in Yankee Stadium, just again, a cocky 18-year-old.
My parents were so cute worrying about this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And thank God they did, because, obviously 5-6 years later I'm here and the Yankees paid for my school. So I was able to avoid that cost. But yeah, the draft was crazy. I got drafted, I think it was June 6th, if I remember right. And I think I was in Tampa for rookie ball, Gulf Coast. And in high school, I was a closer. So I just came in, threw hard. I was 93 to 98, and I just threw fastballs by everybody. And I get to rookie ball, I'm like, yeah, I can do the same thing. I find out real quick, you can throw it 94, they're going to hit it out about 104. So had to really learn how to pitch that offseason. They were going to turn me into a starter. and I put on a few pounds to try to get bigger and stronger, and just again try to figure out what professional baseball is all about. Making zero money and eating fast food all the time. So it was it was fun. My first year was really fun. My first few years were really fun. Then it kind of got to be kind of a little bit of a grind, and at the end of my days, I didn't miss the baseball that much.
Now you started having a shoulder. It was a shoulder, right?
I did, yeah. My fourth season, I started working on new pitches. So I threw a 4-seam fastball, and again threw hard, but I was having a hard time keeping the ball down the zone. So I started messing with the 2-seam fastball, try to get a little bit of movement. And then I really started pronating, turning my changeup in, and just started getting some soreness on the outside of my shoulder, and it kind of got progressively worse, especially toward the last, I'd say the last couple starts of my fourth season. Kind of took a ton of time off, let that thing kind of heal and get back. Went back to spring training. Didn't feel great, but I was like, I'm in my 5th year. This is it or I'm done, right? I'm going to give it one more shot. And
what level were you at?
I was in high A at that time, and so I go to spring training. I felt all right. Got through it. I actually had a really good spring training. Went to in my 5th year. At this time, I was with the Royals. I had gotten picked up in the Rule 5 draft, and so I didn't know this until I got there. But I went to the armpit of America. I shouldn't say this on camera, but high desert, California. It was brutal. The wind blew. A windy day here is an average day in Adelanto. It just happened to be blowing out dead center field. So I felt like I threw the ball really well. I had like a 5 ERA, and I'm lowest ERA on the team. I felt like a good year, but my shoulder, I went from throwing again mid-90s. I was 88 to 92, 93, and without movement, I found out I knew real quick I couldn't pitch, and I plateaued, and I just put my ego aside and said, hey, if I'm going to do this football thing, it's either now or never. I'm not getting any younger. That season, our third baseman played quarterback at Dartmouth, so the wheels were already turning for me. And anyway, I got a football, and we'd throw the football around, pregame, before batting practice, and he was like, man, you ought to really consider it. I think you'd like it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So it all happened pretty fast.
And I remember you telling me no pain in your shoulder at all throwing a football.
Only time my arm hurts now is when I throw the baseball at the kids. It's weird. I can throw a football as many times. It's a different motion, obviously. I think the weight of the ball has a lot to do with it. When I got here at Oklahoma State, I never battled any arm issues. I was pretty lucky. So, throwing a baseball, again, just still doesn't feel good.
So you decided to make that move back to school. Who all did you contact about playing?
So it's crazy how it worked. I reached out. I wanted to stay close. I wanted to be in the Big 12. I thought, living in Oklahoma City, and Robert Allen called me first thing. It was. I don't remember the exact timeline. He could probably tell you better, but it was within a short amount of time, within 7-10 days of me being home. Actually, we may have been sooner than that. It may have been like the day I ended up leaving spring training. I can't remember, but Robert will know for sure. But anyway, he was like, hey, I hear you have aspirations of playing college football. I said, I absolutely do. And probably within a week or so, I was up here. I met with Larry Fedora, the offense coordinator at the time, and I knew right away. Once I walked in, that facility across the way, I was like, I'm going to do this. I want to be a part of a team. I want to be, if I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to, get my degree, one, I think it'll make school a little bit easier, have a little bit more help. But two, I think all I know is sports. All I know is team. I want to be around a part of a team. And Mr. Pickens had just given a bunch of money. And so Oklahoma State, we were kind of on the rise there. So I thought, what better place to be? But I reached out to OU, and at the time, I think they had like 6 quarterbacks. They had Bradford and a ton of 4- and 5-star guys. So I was like, it's probably not the best thing for me if I want to actually play. And so anyway, easy decision. And at the time, I think there was 3. It was Bobby Reed, Zach, and Alex Skate here. And so I was the 4th guy, and came in and like I said, it was a whirlwind. My wife now, girlfriend at the time, I'm surprised she was still with me. I'm surprised she didn't break up with me. She wasn't very happy because she was graduating, and then I was just getting started. So she was.
So now she's dating a freshman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's robbing the cradle a little bit, but no, she. we still joke about it. We laugh about it. She wasn't real fired up with me doing it because it kind of happened. Again, it happened so fast that I'm not a very good communicator at times, and sometimes I don't even think I brought it up. I just told her, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go to school and play football. So I think she was probably assuming I'm going to UCO or somewhere right there, since I owned a house in Edmond, and little did she know that I'm headed north.
And people forget it wasn't just like a lightning strike overnight. So you get here, and it's a couple years before you really service. Talk about maybe what that's like to be one of the older guys on the team when you arrive, but still going through that process for the first time. And we ran a different offense when you got here than what we did when you started playing.
Yeah, Zach and Bobby were, athletic guys, could do some zone read stuff. They were good throwers, but they just had that element in their game where they were a lot more athletic than I was. So the system we ran was completely different. And I tell people, I said this through my NFL days, the best year for me football-wise was my redshirt freshman year, really, and my redshirt freshman year, as well as my freshman year, but was the scout team days. I can throw as many interceptions as I needed to. I can work on technique, footwork, reading defenses, seeing pressures, seeing fronts, seeing all the stuff I needed to do, get timing with those guys. And we had a pretty good little scout team, and some of those young receivers end up playing for me, with us later on. But, I really taking so much time off in football. Reading a defense, it took time just to see it. Understand it, understand coverages, understand, why defenses do certain things. So I was able to knock the rust off with no pressure. And again, just go out there and have fun and learn. Throwing a football has always been a natural thing. That was the easy part. It was the mental side of the game. And so, yeah, coming in these first few years, it was my head was spinning, obviously, but I knew that, if I were going to be the starter, let's talk my sophomore year, I'm doing mop-up duty. We're running a little bit different scheme even then, just throwing the football around to our strengths, which, often staff did a good job with. But I knew that eventually, hopefully, if I was going to be the starter, we'd have to change what we do. And Coach Gundy really knew that system. That was kind of his baby. So, but yeah, it all worked out. And I got some mop-up duty those first, I guess, my second and third year on campus, and especially my third year late in the year, which was when things kind of changed.
So Dana Holgorsen comes in, changes the offense. In 2010, OSU is a co-champion of the Big 12 South, wins 11 games for the first time, and really set the table for 2011. What do you remember about that off season between, you now been a starter for 1 year, you actually have a news conference to let people know you will return, even though you've only got 1 year as a starter underneath your belt, that you're not going to go to the NFL yet. Maybe just talk about your mindset, the team mindset heading into 2011 season.
I think the team, we felt like we left a little bit of meat on the bone. We knew that we had a foundation in place from that junior year. We had a great year. With Dana coming in, kind of changing what we did, the philosophy around here. From a practice standpoint, mindset standpoint, I really think it kind of got us where we needed to go with the guys that we had in place. And I felt like, only having 1 year as a starter, again, I'm competitive. We lost to Oklahoma, we lost to Nebraska, 2 games that were, shootouts, great football games. But I had this feeling in my gut that, there's just so much meat left on the bone. I just felt like we have something special. If we can keep Blackman, and that was the deal. I was worried about Blackman leaving. But if we can keep Blackman, I knew Josh Cooper and all these other receivers, the offensive line was really good. Defensive pieces we had, I was like, this has the potential to be a special season in 2011. And so for me, it was really a pretty easy decision. But I was, again, I was worried about all the other factors. And I kind of knew what we had. I knew we had something brewing. There was just a feel around here that really you can't put into words. It was different. And the expectations were higher than we've ever had. The pressure, I would say, is higher than we've ever had. People were talking about Oklahoma State. We're ranked, whatever, top 5, 7, 10, whatever in the country. And we had the target on our back a little bit. And that's a fun spot to be in. And so I thought, what beats playing college football in a football town, in a state you've lived in your entire life? This has the makings to be something so special that I think you'd be crazy to leave it. If I want to go to the NFL, the NFL will be there. I know I was older, but what's one extra year? And I thought that selfishly for me, I think I need, I still had some room for improvement, mechanically, mentally. I think I became a better quarterback. I think, that I stayed. I think it helped me become a better player on the field, and a lot of that's because I had great players around me.
Yeah, 5 guys up front that are coming back. That's very comforting for a quarterback. So that was huge. Blackman and all of our receivers, and we lost Bo Bowling. We got Tracy Moore. They'll step in and just pick up where he left off, and guys like that. And we got real comfortable at the end of the year last year as far as wide receivers and running backs, and Joseph Randall's a true freshman, or was a true freshman. So we've got guys that really like to play football, and it's fun to come to the field every day because these guys love doing what we're doing. So, I mean, really and truly just everybody. There's not one person in particular, just everybody that's involved.
Did you get feedback from the NFL that said, hey, you could really benefit from another year of being in school?
That's a weird process. They you send in your draft grade, they send you back a draft grade, and I was a second, third round grade, and for me, right there, that kind of said enough. That was kind of the icing on the cake that says, you know what, as good as that opportunity could be, I think I can get better. I think I can improve that. But they didn't really give me, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. It was just, hey, we project you to be this.
Yeah.
You could be a first rounder, you could be a seventh rounder. We don't know, but I knew I needed to get better. I knew I had a lot of things I needed to clean up, and with Todd Monken coming in, a guy with NFL experience, the experience he had, I thought he could really help me, and he did. He was fantastic.
Cowboys of Oklahoma State on their home field, trying this year again to win 11 games, as they did a year ago. More importantly,
so when you talk about Bedlam in 2011, you really have to start 2 weeks earlier with the Iowa State game and the trip to Ames. Friday night game, the world was watching. The Cowboys were undefeated, ranked number 2 in the country. And then we had the tragedy the night before, the plane crash that takes the lives of 4 members of the women's basketball program.
OSU players and fans, as you might imagine, are in shock after 2 coaches and 2 longtime donors were killed in a plane crash. The crash happened around 4:30 yesterday afternoon, about 45 miles.
How did you find out about the crash?
If I remember right, I woke up early that morning. For some reason, I don't know if I had to go to the restroom or what, but my phone, I had on Do Not Disturb and privacy or whatever, and it had a Twitter alert, and that was kind of how I found out. I think it was all social media. Social media was kind of relatively new then, and so I found out on there, and then that was at probably 6:30, and I don't think I went back to sleep. I mean, my mind's racing, going a million miles an hour, and I mean, just that feeling, the feeling in your gut. I mean, I never really got rid of it. I mean, even through the game, and obviously we lose the game, and that feeling kind of continues. So, but yeah, I found out on social media, probably like the rest of the team and the coaching staff.
It obviously was not a normal Friday at the team hotel. It did not have a game day vibe to it at all.
No, we were, anytime you have something like that happen, I mean, it's just human nature. I mean, you just kind of feel down in the dumps, you've got to get up and go play a game. I mean, again, it's Friday night, it's on national television. We had everything right there for us for the taking. We just didn't have the same juice. I mean, I think one thing this team did, we didn't need Coach Gundy or the coaching staff to rah us. I mean, we always kind of developed our own juice, and you could feel it. It was just an eerie feeling in the line. It was quiet. It was kind of somber. We had some fake, juice that we were trying to get going for ourselves. We just never really got it. It was weird.
Well, it's almost like also you couldn't give yourself permission to forget about the tragedy because of the game, because you felt like that was disrespectful. And I remember the pregame breakfast, Saturday mornings we would be in and watching Game Day on all these TVs for breakfast. And that morning, it was the plane crash on every channel. That's what was on during breakfast. Yeah,
I remember that too. I mean, I remember that game relatively well, but, it was a chilly night. Coach Gary always stretched me, and, normally we were talking, we're laughing, we're, cutting up, and he's cracking jokes or whatever. And I mean, even with our conversation, which I love that guy to death, but felt like we didn't talk to each other that much. It was just kind of the whole night. I mean, I kind of felt like we were a shell of ourselves, and that's human nature. Again, it was such an awful, thing that happened, and the timing of it wasn't great for anybody. But it was just it was tough for us to recoup and go play an important football game.
I hadn't thought about this before, but it's easy to forget we were up 24-7 at halftime, and it still did not feel good.
Yeah.
Was that the way it was with you guys in the locker room?
Yeah. Yes, because I didn't really feel like we played great in the first half. We had a 3-score lead, but it just never really felt like we were controlling and comfortable. We just never, there's a lot of games there's a couple games early in the year where we, like I'm thinking Lafayette, like we didn't play very well in the first half, but we knew we were the better team. We knew we were going to go play well in the second half. We were going to win the game. This game, it was like, okay, they're a good football team. We're at their place. You could hear a pin drop at times in the locker room. It was different than any game I've probably ever experienced, especially here. Just because, again, we always kind of brought that juice on ourselves, and that second half was kind of a blur. I mean, I've never gone back and watched that game, and I know what I did and didn't play well enough to win. But yeah, we lose that lead and just a gut punch. It was gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, and just a feeling that hope I never have to have again.
So the next week is actually an open week. What do you remember about those practices leading up to the time when Coach cut everybody loose for the weekend?
I remember myself. I mean, I remember, not even wanting to go home. I want to stay here and work. I felt like the only chance we had to get to where we want to go is to beat Oklahoma and just beat them like we did. And I know we needed it from a get healthy, get your mind right, that whole deal. And Coach Gundy did a great job of that. But I just remember, guys were pissed. Guys were. That week of practice against OU was different, and it started up front. Your memory's a lot better than mine, but I remember our guys up front. They single-handedly won us that Oklahoma game. We ran the football at will, and those guys took it personal, and I think that attitude they kind of brought, especially in practice. In practice, those guys. We did a little inside drill. You work on your run game. The pads were popping a little bit louder. Guys were coming off the ball a little bit faster. In week 12 or week 13 of the season, no one's healthy. No one feels good. And those guys, they look like they were fresh. Whatever they did on their break, they played well.
I've always thought that last practice before you guys took your break was the best one I've ever been to. And I don't know really what it was about it, but I remember thinking, wow, they're actually going to win this Bedlam game. It doesn't really matter what the pressure is. It just kind of had that feel to it. Is that,
I think,
am I making that up, or is that the...
No, I would 100% agree. I think it sucks that losing has to kind of bring that out sometimes. But, losing that game, it's like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board. Okay, like, we know we're a great football team. We've got all the pieces to get to where we need to go. I think, unfortunately, when you lose a game like that, maybe that kind of gets you back, like, not focused. We were focused, but I think just, let's tie up all the loose ends. And we knew what our strengths were. We knew what our weaknesses were. Our defense had given up some yards that year, but they always got a big turnover. They always got a big stop. They always found a way to get us the ball. I know they were mad. We scored in a minute 20 every once in a while, and they're back on the field. But we had that yin and yang between us and the defense. So, but I would agree that practice before we left, we were on a mission, and I don't care who we played. If we'd have played LSU the next week and that was a national championship, we would have done the same thing. We just, the guys in this locker room, it was, we knew we let one slip, and we didn't want to do it 2 times in a row, especially to an in-state rival with so much on the line. If that loss happens week 2, week 3, maybe things are different, but we knew that we had to absolutely, get after Oklahoma in order to play for a BCS championship, and unfortunately that came up a little bit short too.
What's ironic is the summer before 2011, we rearranged our schedule to have an open date before Bedlam, and it probably couldn't have worked out really any better. And I know OU rearranged theirs to make sure they played the week before Bedlam. And neither way is right or wrong, but based on how the situation played out, it really worked out well for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I never knew that. I mean, that's true. I mean, because they were a good football team that year. I mean, they were physical on defense. Venables was the defense coordinator. He had good scheme. Not to change the subject, but I remember the year before, they had a bye week, and they came in. They went from a 4-down front to a 3-down front, and all of our game plan runs. I mean, that sounds like a simple thing, but when every scheme in the run game is different, your protections are now different. It caused us a lot of problems. I remember we were sitting right over here. I was sitting with the coaches, and we said we got to make some adjustments. Let's go back to our game one or day one install runs, and let's see how we want to block these 3-down fronts. So they had that extra week of preparation to create a wrinkle to really throw a wrench in our plans. Well, we kind of did the same thing for them. We had some, we thought that they had our signs on. I can say this now. We thought they had our signals back then. So we went to a wristband. Sometimes they'd be legit on the wristband. Sometimes we were dummy, but we had the wristband, and so we had extra time to prepare for them. And you take that extra week of preparation, guys getting healthier, us mad, and the week of practice we had. Again, I'm not sure there was a team in the country that would beat us that December 3rd.
Looks out there at him as Cooper comes in motion. They keep it on the ground, and this is going to be a touchdown. Jeremy Smith.
Now, certainly in 2011, the ability to run the ball. I mean, you had 2 running backs over 100 yards. It was the only game all year you did not throw a touchdown pass, and yet the game was pretty much over with at halftime. Is part of that what was installed during the off week?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our game plan again. I mean, I remember, as clear as day that, we were in practice, our offensive line was they were coming off the ball just different. We were running the football. I mean, Jeremy Smith was a bruiser. Joseph Randall had a good week of practice. That was the first time in my life I'd never thrown a touchdown pass, but I couldn't care less, with the way the game worked out. But I mean, I felt like every time we handed it off, we were gonna get 8 to 10 yards. It was almost like a first down every time we touched it. And I remember Tracy Moore came to the sideline. This is like the start of the third quarter, and we ran an outside zone play. He blocked this guy, pancaked him, and the guy got up, was like, man, come on, man, we're just trying to get out of here. And from that minute, that was like 10 minutes left in the third quarter, I was like, this game's over, So, but we did that. I mean, we created that, and we were the more physical team. I think we were a more physical team regardless, but I mean, we came out and we played with a chip on our shoulder, and our run game. I always say this, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about what we did on offense my junior and senior year was we ran the football.
I agree.
Dana ran the football. And, a lot of those touchdowns I threw in the back of the end zone, those fades to Blackman, those were all run plays. So we're trying to run the football. But we ran the football so effective that, teams couldn't play 2 deep safeties. They'd have to bring a guy down. They couldn't double Blackman all the time. So our ability to run the football, it made my life and our receivers' life so much easier because, who do you stop? You play to stop the run, or you're going to, play deep and try to take away 81. So, but that theory that the air raid is just, spread it, spread it, and rip it. No, I think it all started with the run game and our offensive line's ability to block it up and do things, have our passes that kind of mirror those run plays. So it was a dominant performance by our offensive line and a great job by our backs.
What do you remember about halftime? Because this series, I wish we'd had more than its share of blown leads. It's 24-3. It felt like it was over at the half. I'm just wondering, inside these walls, before you guys went back out, what was the mindset?
Yeah, I think I remember, guys. I mean, everybody's saying, "Hey, it's 0-0, 0-0." So I think that was our philosophy. I think one thing about Dana and Coach Monken that we were going to try to score 100, and what stop us? That was their philosophy. We're not going to change what we do. You got to find a way to stop us, and I think that was kind of the mindset in here. Again, we knew we let one slip a couple weeks before, last game of the year, rivalry game. The feeling in here was we weren't going to let this one go, and I think it was just do the same thing we did the first half. Obviously they don't score, they don't win, but our defense was dominant. I mean, they pressured Landry Jones all night, did a great job in coverage, great job stopping the run. But around, I mean, again, it was just kind of business as usual. But it was, you know, we're gonna step on their throats and make them like it.
Under 5 to go in the half. Boy, everybody up close for the Cowboys. They're going to bring that many. They are. Jones running for his life. That's a ball's out, and it's scooped up by Blacknick, and he might go. Blacknick down the sideline. Still on his feet, inside the 5.
I think you're right. I mean, the offensive line, you could see attitude during the course of that. Nick Martinez comes to mind.
Yeah.
He was quick to let them know this is going pretty well for OSU. I don't know exactly what he was saying to OU, but he was basically, but you saw that on defense too. Now, normally that was a defense that gave up yards, they got red zone stops and turnovers, but that night, they just really could not be blocked.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they couldn't. I mean, they, you know, our defensive line, you know, between Rashedi and Jamie and all these guys, I mean, they made such big plays. You know, not only rushing the passer, but you had Jamie's, you know, fumble recovery down the sideline, and you know, they just, again, just creating turnovers and just pressuring, you know, Landry Jones as much as possible. And his life was, he wanted no part of it. I mean, by the time the game was over, he was ready for it to be over. So, no, I think our team was so unique. I mean, like I said, I think we had games where we were dominant on offense. We had games where we didn't play well on offense, and our defense found a way to pick us up, and vice versa. And that's what good teams do. That game was a perfect example of both of us playing probably our best football. Is we were dominant on offense. Our defense played as well as they played all year, probably as physical as they played all year. Did what they did and getting turnovers like they had all year. I mean, so again, I don't think there was anybody in the country, if they were lining up against us that night, that would have beat us. We were on a mission. And, you know, those games are fun. When you're a player and you're on offense and you feel like you can do no wrong, and you come off the field and you watch your defense just fly around, knocking people, you know, knocking helmets off, and I mean, there's not a better feeling, and especially when you do it at home. I mean, that was kind of the icing on the cake there. But, no, it was probably the best night of my life, and other than when my kids are born. So it's number 3, best nights of my life. But it was I wish I could, you know, Coach Monken used to say this ad nauseum. He'd say, you know, there's not a drop of alcohol or a drug out there that'll make you feel like, you know, the euphoria, then coming in a locker room to celebrate. And that's the truth. I mean, the celebration in that locker room, I mean, I didn't want it to end. It was the most fun. You know, Mr. Pickens was in there. Obviously, Gundy's doing his dances or whatever. And the guys, I mean, it was just, again, it was the most fun hour I've ever had after a game.
This is, I mean, I'm telling you, this is more than I would have ever dreamed of. This is special. I'm so happy for these guys. I mean, there's so many older guys and guys I came in with on senior night and everything about it. I mean, I could go on and on. And this is just, this is the reason me and Blackman came back. We want to beat Oklahoma. We want to win the Big 12 championship. And this is what it's all about.
The ABC crew that night was Brad Nessler and Todd Blackledge, and you told them at the moment beating OU was more important to you than the Big 12 championship. I was just wondering, 10, 11 years later, you still feel that way?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the Big 12 championship is obviously extremely special. I mean, I cherish that. But growing up in Oklahoma, we lost them the year before. I didn't want to be 0-2 against them. I've got buddies that are OU fans. You know, I knew that win would stay with me. I'm talking personally here. It would stay with me for the rest of my life. And it has. And I meet fans all the time that come up and say, God, that Bedlam game was the most fun game. And, you know, and that's the first thing they talk about. And, you know, if we lose that game, you know, again, I have OU fans that come up to me all the time and try to rouse me. I was like, man, you must have slept since 2011. I don't know what, you remember the score? You know, I'm able to kind of go back at them with something. And you know, so yeah, that, you know, that was, I would probably say 1A of why I wanted to come back. I wanted to come back to win and do all that, but I wanted to beat Oklahoma. That was important to me. And you know, I live in Oklahoma City, and not very often does an OU fan come up and say much. They'll say I'm a big OU fan, but man, you guys got us, you know, in 2011, and so that may not have been the case, you know, if they were to find a way to come in here and beat us. But it was that one means a lot. I mean, I think we had some some really special wins. I mean, probably 3 or 4 that stand out, maybe more than the others. But yeah, that night on December 3rd was one of the most fun nights I've ever been a part of.
And Bedlam about to become mayhem.